This is the Mariners POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Seattle Mariners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is 10:21 Pacific Daylight Time on June 9th, 2025. And that is the most Mariners of Mariner games that I have ever seen, especially in the last 3 or 4 years.
Gosh. Yeah.
Where they give you hope and then they just punch you right in the gut at the end and can't do anything for 2 extra innings. I'm exhausted, guys.
Yep.
This is a facade. I get it was a cool moment. I was pretty hyped when Dom Canzone hit the home run. It was pretty fun. I'm not a registered Dom Canzone lover by any stretch of the imagination. But it was fun. It was a cool moment, you know. But this offense was terrible for 8.5 innings. Awful. They basically got shut out. And then they basically went back to being awful again after a cool 9th inning where a couple guys had some big hits. Who I can't remember the first one before Solano was that Solano knocked in. I want to say it was Cole Young.
I think it was Dylan Moore drew a walk.
Oh yeah, you're right. And then he stole second base.
Solano. Yeah.
Solano hits it in, and then JP gets a hit, and then Julio gets a hit after the Dom Canzone home run, and it looked like, okay, they're starting to break out of their funk a little bit, and nope. Then you see the extra innings, and it's just sorry, long intro there. Anderson Hirst here, Christopher Crawford. We've been waiting. We've been waiting a long time to go live, and we were hoping to be excited to be waiting a long time to go live, but no, we are not. Chris Crawford, initial thoughts on this game?
It's just such a Seattle Mariner game, and I know that's an easy thing to say. The Mariners win lots of blowouts, they lose lots of blowouts, they win a lot of close games, they lose a lot of close games, but some of them just feel very Seattle Mariner-y, like the type of game that you would see like written into an episode of Frasier. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can hear the Blues are calling in those tossed salads and scrambled eggs so much in games like this. And it just stinks because there's so much good and bad to take from this, but the good doesn't matter. The good doesn't matter because, Anders, you remember what I said yesterday about how much fun it is to talk about the wins and you can like just ignore what happened in the 5 games before? Well, then you've got stuff like this. And you got to talk about it. And you got to just be honest of what you saw today. And what you saw today was a punctuation, I hope a punctuation, of one of the worst weeks of Seattle Mariners in this decade. I know they won 1 game, but this is just not good, man. And that's the most obvious of obvious points. But nothing you are seeing right now is good enough.
No, it's not. It's not. And that's kind of what, so peek behind the curtain. I was preparing to go solo today because something came up, but because we went so long, Chris was like, hey, I'll hop back in. Let's go live.
Sure.
So I was actually going to,
The funny thing is, I was thinking, holy crap, this game is flying by for the first 6 innings. And anytime you think something like that, you're destined for extras. It is the Ryan Divish curse of Ryan Divish curses.
Yes, it is.
You short little man that has ruined everything for me ever since he brought up something that if you think a game is going short, it's going to go extras.
Yeah.
It seems to happen a lot. I hope you're doing well in Montana, though, buddy.
Yeah, we miss you. Hopefully he comes back soon. So what I was going to say is we're going to solicit your guys' comments today because this team's playing bad baseball right now. And I kind of tweeted it out earlier thinking that the game was going to be over in the 9th inning when we were down by 4. Thank you, Dom Canzone. Welcome back, by the way. But we're asking you, what is the thing about this team? And I don't necessarily want to get into roster construction. I don't want to get obviously into ownership or anything like that. That's a Ty and Colby conversation. I'm just talking about the play on the field. What needs to change for this team? Because I'm curious because I can go a lot of different directions, but I want to know what the general thought amongst the public is. So comment in who you guys think or what you think really needs to change. It's a tough one to kind of break down, but yeah. And I mentioned it yesterday when we went live after the Angels win. Seemed like there was a lot of positive signs coming from this team. Kind of the blueprint of a Mariners win that you like to see. Really good starting pitching. Offense was started to turn it up a little bit. You saw good games from Randy Arozarena, who had another good one today, by the way.
Yep, absolutely.
And just all that went down the drain again. It just looks like the team we've seen for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's so familiar and borderline formulaic. Like it's just almost like boring to see how the Mariners seem to write the same script, not just every game, but every season, man. Like every year we see something like this, and it's either a super high or a super low. But can I just watch the Seattle Mariners be consistently a good baseball team for 2 months? Just 2 months. That's all I'm asking. And not to have it happen after you start at 19 and 29, just 2 months of good, solid baseball. And I just get so frustrated with it. I think we got to talk about Emerson Hancock today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because, he did start the game and all that stuff. I thought Hancock pitched pretty well. Now, he wasn't as good as he was the previous start against, who was that last start against? I should remember, but he pitched really well in that outing. Just gave up, I think it was Baltimore, that he just gave up that one run over 5 2/3 innings. That home run from Corbin Carroll was a good piece of hitting and a lucky piece of hitting. The expected batting average on that home run was 160. 160. And look, he got the right length. He got the right launch angle on it. It worked out. But really outside of that and a little bit of scuffle in the 5th inning, Emerson Hancock deserved to win today. Emerson Hancock pitched more than well enough to win against a pretty tough lineup. There are some good Arizona Diamondback hitters. I've been really encouraged with what I have seen from Emerson Hancock really since that first disaster of a start. And even before that, I liked what I saw in spring training from him as well. Like the velocity, everything. Regardless, the long story shorter is that Emerson Hancock was not the issue tonight. 5 innings of 2-run baseball on the road against a flawed, but quality lineup should be good enough to win.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I still see pretty big holes in his game. For someone who doesn't strike out, strike out very many batters, he walks too many people at the same time.
Way too many people. Totally agree.
If you're going to pitch to contact, you got to throw strikes, man, and trust your stuff. And that's kind of what does him in whenever he has starts like these he doesn't blow up ever. It seems like, except that first start of the season, really.
Right. Exactly. I was just going to say.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, it's a fine 5th or 6th starter.
It's a perfectly cromulent back end starter. We prefer it to be the very back end, the literal dumper. But if he's in your hindquarters or whatever way you're going, I guess it's totally fine as a 4th starter as well. But preferably he'd be your 5th guy. And if your 5th guy gives you 5 innings of 2-run baseball, you should win.
David, this is an excellent comment. It's crazy this loss isn't even the top 5 as far as pain in the past 2 weeks. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. We should do a whole episode on ranking the most painful losses just from the past 2 weeks. That'd be a long one. We would go pretty long. So I don't know, man. This is the thing about doing a daily show. We start talking about the same stuff over and over again. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you think the pitching needs to be better? Because I think you could definitely get more from your starting pitching, especially a team that's built on that. But there's no way you can say that this offense is anywhere near good enough. So, Furness fam, thanks for checking in with us today. Would love to have Nathan on to tell us how good Dom Canzone is.
Go to bed, buddy. You have a long day ahead of you. Like, come on. I appreciate it, but get some sleep.
I mean, okay, let's get into the where do I want to go with this? We talked about Emerson Hancock. Offensively, really bad for 8.5 innings. Let's talk about the Dom Canzone at bat,
100%.
because it seemed like all was lost, and it was like a meme at that point. Oh, what if he does it against his former team?
Sure.
The first day he comes back in the majors after Anders and Chris were absolutely pooping on him earlier on the radio show. Like, what if that happens? And it ends up happening.
Hey, would you say that maybe we were 7-second dumping on?
We definitely were 7-second dumping. We were.
The streak is over. I thought that was a really cool moment, and it's one of my favorite things about baseball is that as long as you are not too far gone, there's a lot of times a great moment that can come out of a crappy thing, and I will be able to, in probably 3 or 4 hours, give or take, be able to really recognize what a cool moment that is. Because Dom Canzone knows what you're saying about him. Dom Canzone knows how badly he flailed after. Remember what happened with Dom Canzone? That he had that amazing start to spring training, was just clobbering everything so much that he won the starting job over Luke Raley.
Was it last year?
Yeah, he was that hot with the bat, and then he just particularly flat out couldn't be played against left-handers and wasn't doing enough against right-handers. The expected stat suggested there was some bad luck, but he's not a good defensive player, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters tonight, because in a situation that turned an absolutely ugly, pathetic loss into at least a nail-biter, and maybe, just maybe, if things would have gone right, turns everything around, and you're talking about a 2-game winning streak and a winning. When's the last time they won the first game of a freaking series, man?
A long time ago. That's actually, I'm going to look at that while you keep talking.
That seems forever ago. It's the Nationals, I think. They won that 9-1 game, and we thought everything was good. And then, you know what happened? The Seattle Mariners turned back into the Seattle Mariners.
Now let's go to extras. I'm going to start on the pitching side, and then we can get to offense. Because I think there's a lot of people asking about the use of the leverage arms. I thought we were turning a corner when Dan Wilson was using Munoz in a non-save opportunity in the bottom of the ninth after just tying the game. I was like, yes. And Munoz gets through, albeit there was a hard contact out. I think it was the second batter he faced anyways, but he gets through it on 8 pitches. And then the Mariners do their thing, and then we come back and it's Carlos Vargas in the 10th and Carlos Vargas in the 11th. There's a lot of people asking about Matt Brash, and I just want your thoughts. He did pitch yesterday. I don't have the numbers in front of me on how many pitches he threw yesterday. But that is something to keep in mind, as he is, of course, still coming back from Tommy John.
Hey, Anders. Yeah. Here's what I want to do. I want to do a spoiler thing, but I think we should talk about game time and stuff first, and then we'll get into my bullpen answer.
Okay, so you'll have to wait to hear that answer. But first,
to be continued.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible.
Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they have incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I love that guarantee. I love knowing that, I'm not going to feel like a sucker after I buy a ticket. And I also love that, I'm a planner, but it's nice to be able to be spontaneous and say, you know what? I am melting in my house. It would be a lot more fun to go to a baseball game and drink that sugar lemonade at T-Mobile Park over sitting in this insanely hot house, and I can do that only because of Game Time.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And you know what I wish they sold at the Gametime, those games that you use in Gametime? I realized that I was covering the overlay with a comment. So that's completely my bad. Gametime, we'll talk about you a little bit more throughout the rest of the episode.
We
but
love you.
I wish they sold Wonderful Pistachios, because if you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios.
Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Love snacking on pistachios. I feel like if Dan Wilson would have taken a little bit more pistachio in his life, that maybe we see some better bullpen decisions today. I'm just saying that, like, it's a superfood, and I think the Mariners could use as much superfood as they can, and pistachios would be pretty high on my list.
Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we teased it.
So bullpen.
Now I want to hear your answer. What do you think about the bullpen usage? Matt Brash, go.
Yeah. So this is the problem with having your second best reliever being treated with kid gloves, right? Because you're pretty obviously using Matt Brash against the top of that lineup. And I will say this, I loved seeing Andres Munoz used in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, don't save him for something that may or may not occur. In fact, we know it didn't occur. So thank goodness that we didn't have a chance to complain about that. But we can, I think, it's more about roster construction than it is about Wilson. It's more about the fact that because of the fact that Matt Brash, and if you want to blame this on Gregory Santos not working out, okay, well, then that was a bad trade. That was a really bad trade, because neither of those guys are great now, but you pretty mediocre option at best. So to me, it's more about the roster construction. I personally don't have an issue knowing what they had with what they did. Like, Carlos Vargas was the better option. You're not pitching Jackson Coar against those guys. You're not pitching, who did we say the other arm that was available? I think it was just Coar.
It's just Coar. Well, I mean, there are some people asking to see if Munoz only had 8 pitches. Do you throw him back out there to 10?
So here's the thing. Yes, I would have had Andres Munoz go back out there for that inning. Like, and it probably doesn't matter either way, because I don't think Carlos Vargas was going to get through those guys, so
yeah, it's true.
Maybe he's a little more effective the very first time that a lineup is seeing him. Josh Naylor's paying attention. Josh Naylor's looking at where those pitches and velocity and all of that stuff. I didn't have a huge issue with it, but I would have preferred to see Andres Munoz go another inning, because he's probably not available tomorrow. Like, they're not, I don't think they're going to use Andres Munoz back to back to back. I just don't think that's going to happen. So why not use him for 20 pitches, knowing that he's going to get an off day anyway? So that's my biggest issue. It's not the reason they lost. But I really do think you've got to get another bullpen arm, and especially, and again, Ty and Colby will have all of this covered, their show, all that stuff. They're better than us, yada, yada, yada. You got to go get another lefty for this bullpen, man. Like, that's the perfect situation to bring in a lefty for. That is the perfect situation where you have left-handed hitter, switch hitter, left-handed hitter. Go bring in that lefty. Go bring in. It's too bad Taylor Cesato's not that guy, but go get the 2022 version of Taylor Cisetto, 2023 version of Taylor Cisetto to make this bullpen better. I think that it's more about roster construction than it is about today, how Dan Wilson used that bullpen.
Yeah. So let's get to the offensive side of the extra innings. I mean, we can talk about the offense during the 9-inning stretch all we want. It's been the same stuff we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks. Just not good enough. Non-competitive at bats. I know Merrill Kelly's good. It's just weird. I was going to ask you this before it went into something way bigger than it should have been, to be honest, about this game. But is he someone that, like, I look at his game log and he's had a really good year. He's had like 1 or 2 blow up starts, but he's, for whatever reason, but then I watch him pitch And it's like, that guy doesn't look like he would be dominating an entire lineup. How does he do it?
It's a really interesting profile because, and he's a guy I've followed a while because he and Chris Flexen were kind of those guys who came over after pitching overseas and just kind of put it all together. There's a ton of deception to his delivery. It's one of the reasons why he's usually among the league leaders in chase rate. There's nothing super impressive about him, but his off-speed stuff, because you get so much chase, like he ranks in the 99th percentile in off-speed run value this year. That's really good. And 88th percentile for breaking the stuff. The changeup is really good. His changeup, and it's one of those things where, to question a little bit Dan Wilson there, I would have preferred to have a right-handed hitting lineup there because it really neutralizes that changeup. He's not going to throw that pitch to more right-handed hitters. So maybe a little too lefty. I might have started Donovan Solano today instead of
that means starting Donovan Solano, Mitch Garver, and Dylan Moore. Right. No thanks. Yeah. No thanks.
So, and I'm not saying you bench JP Crawford or bench any of those guys for that situation, but I do think that, going all lefty heavy may have been a mistake there. So to answer your question, Merrill Kelly's a solid pitcher. That doesn't mean the Mariners offense was good tonight. Like, there were some terrible at bats. Julio had a few terrible ones, and I hate doing it, especially after I made my stupid joke about him yesterday. Big Dumper had a rough one today, rough one. But, and you know what, again, and I've said this a few times, that is not insulting Big Dumper. That's insulting the rest of this team that they flat out cannot score enough runs unless that dude does something. JP Crawford getting on 4 times is awesome. It's all at first base. And he's not fast enough to go make plays by himself. And the offense isn't good enough to move him to second base. That's not an insult to JP Crawford. It's just saying that he's a complimentary piece. Randy Arozarena is starting to pick things up. It's nice to see Julio with 2 hits after those first 3 at bats were just so awful. So, but it was nice to see a little bit of an adjustment there. It's still, he had a pitch that he should have hit 800 feet today. 800 feet, sinker right down the middle of the plate. And he just fouls it off. And in fact, he just fouls it off meekly, just a little chopper towards third base. This offense has to be better. And they make Merrill Kelly's look like Max Scherzer's too often. Then that's, again, I'm not insulting Merrill Kelly. I'm just saying that the Mariners, anytime you get shut out by a starting pitcher, give all the credit you want. The offense has a part in that. The offense always has a part in that. And especially if it's not a Tariq Skubal or a George Kirby yesterday, who, you can't really blame the Angels hitters for that one. I think you just got to say, hey, George Kirby was freaking awesome. It's just not a good enough offense. And they make above average pitchers like Merrill Kelly, maybe even slightly above average, put them in that 60 grade on the 2080 scale. They make them look like 70s too often.
Yeah. And it's something that we noticed as a different kind of element to the Mariners offense when they were going, and we were giving all the praise to Kevin Seitzer and Edgar Martinez. It seemed like they were working counts. They were working good starters out of the game early in the 5th inning, instead of the 6th, 7th inning. And we're not seeing that. We're in this stretch where the offense has just gone to crap. We're not seeing that anymore. And it's not like a Cal issue. He's obviously still having a great year. He had a bad game today, but even just if you look at the stretch of what we're talking about, what the last month, 3 weeks, I guess, since the Padres series, it's that kind of factor is the main thing that sticks out to me is that they would get to those pitchers, aces, whoever you want to get to the meat of the bullpen early in the series. So then later in the series, they would not be able to use those arms. And now it's just like we're flailing around. We're making, like you said, the Merrill Kellys of the world, the Trevor Williams of the world, who is the one from Baltimore? Kyle Gibsons of the world. Just all of them. They look like they're aces against us again. And it's just, God, we've done this the last 3 years, man. And it seemed like it was different for the first month and a half of the season. And it's not anymore.
And I'll be honest, the big difference here was Jorge Polanco. When Jorge Polanco was playing at that level, the Seattle Mariner offense looked well above average. And now this current version, even though I'm starting to see some life from Jorge Polanco,
a little bit, yeah,
nowhere close to what and we aren't asking him to have a 700 slugging percentage. He had a 700 slugging percentage for a.
We're not asking that. I'm asking just.
No. I want a 775 OPS dude. If you could be a 775 OPS dude with a couple other guys, like if you got 775 OPSs from, and I know this is gonna offend somebody, if you got 775 OPS from Julio, from Crawford, from Randy Arozarena, and you have the 900 version, 850 version of Cal Raleigh, it's a really good offense. It's a really, really good offense. But even if their numbers end up close to there, we will remember that there's so many peaks and valleys for these hitters to get there. So many peaks and valleys for everyone I mentioned there, except for Big Dumper. By the way, 0-1 with him in the lineup since being benched. It's time to look elsewhere.
Hashtag not my MVP. Yes, he is. He's my MVP. I'm calling it right now. It's
totally fair.
Calling it, but I'm hoping it happens, obviously.
Jumping on the boat early. Very early boat jumper.
All right. Well, we're back to bad vibes. I thought yesterday would have been a good kind of changing of the guard here, going back to the good offensive performances, good starting pitching. We get Brian Wu tomorrow. I mean, let's hope he comes out with his A game. And you got to take the second game of the series because they have to win the next two games just to get 500 on this road trip.
Yep. And, you're playing a Diamondbacks team that has been inconsistent at best. You were just playing a Los Angeles Angels team that, just watching those guys again, all due respect to Mike Trout, one of the greatest players I've ever seen. You're playing teams that are worse than you in talent right now.
100%.
You're playing teams that are worse than you in talent, and you are flailing. You're just flailing. It sucks because it's not early. It is not early in the season whatsoever. And these series really matter. And you have got to beat the teams that you are supposed to beat. Obvious point is obvious, but it doesn't make it
our friend Brian said Wu was pushed as they moved Bryce Miller to the IL. Logan Evans goes tomorrow. So,
okay.
So a little bit of a change. I hadn't seen that.
I didn't see that either. That's really
literally
interesting.
Is just now. Bryce Miller will be scratched from his Wednesday start and return to the injured list. Logan Evans will start tomorrow with Brian Wu moving to Wednesday. So Bryce Miller is going back to the IL. I think something we were kind of predicting for a while.
Yeah. I wish there was a daily podcast that could break this down and really talk about it. Like specifically, if they were, say, keyed in on the Seattle Mariners, that's what I would call it too, is keyed in Mariners.
I don't know if that's the right preposition. Okay. I'd go locked on Mariners.
Locked in Mariners. I like that.
Okay.
Because you're actually locked into the Mariners. But yeah, I think a daily podcast to talk about that stuff would be really cool.
All jokes aside, check out Ty and Colby tomorrow. They will probably be breaking down this move, the game tonight. Jokes, right? Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. A tough one. I'm sorry I didn't have a ton of energy. I was ready to rage after the first 9 innings. Then I was excited after the Dom Canzone home run, and then I was just dejected after watching the extra innings unfold. It was just, and I'm done. It's 10:50 p.m.
It's kind of crazy that just, I don't care. I was ready to go to the emergency room because I was not. Some of you guys know I have cirrhosis and I also have a growth in my head, so it's a bad time. And I was ready to go, and then I kind of decided, number one, I don't like abandoning my boy, and number two, might as well just go tomorrow where I can actually get real care from real doctors. But it's kind of I think I had more energy than you today, and I think that makes me a better person than you.
It probably does. I don't deny it. I really don't deny it because you have way more excuses to not have the energy. So I'm just hanging out here, and I'm a lazy boy. So All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, we get back to winning ways, as we mentioned. And thank you, Brian, for updating us. It is Logan Evans tomorrow. Logan Evans makes his return to the starting rotation. Hopefully, he can bring it and get this team back on track. We went long today. Have a good night. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Check out Ty and Colby with Locked On Mariners tomorrow.
The game went long. It's not our fault. The game went long.
That's fair. Talk to you guys tomorrow.